Hello there, it's Silver. This is Ships at Sea. So this is a simulator that takes place in the beautiful waters of Norway, and it is one of those more slower paced sims that's meant to be a very relaxing kind of manual experience. Games like the Euro Truck simulators and American truck simulators of the world, as well as stuff like farming sims. You know, the games where you get to control a bunch of industrial equipment that you normally wouldn't be able to control in your everyday life, and everything is kind of slow paced and chill. In this case, obviously, you are a captain of a ship, or rather several different ships, depending on what you decide to buy, and this is a highly sandboxy experience. You will be plopped down in this port area and given a basic tutorial just so that you know how the controls work and kind of what you're expected to be doing, but then after that tutorial is over, you're just kind of let loose into the greater world and told, go have fun, make some money, and enjoy yourself. And the main things that you'll be doing are kind of determined by the type of ship that you actually have, because they're divided into different things, and although most ships can do several things, they kind of focus, they specialize in something that they'll be doing better than everything else. That's just sort of the nature of a ship. So you have a very pretty area in Norway to actually explore around in, with lots of sort of jagged islands and things that I think was a good choice because it gives you some more hazards to navigate. There are various sounds and ports and things for you to go around, so you'll notice that a lot of your treks will have some more complicated navigation to do, which is why I thought it was a good choice to set it around here. There's, a good amount of, you've got to pay attention to the topography under the water using your map and stuff to make sure that you don't run aground against something that you can't see above the surface, but you may also have to kind of go in between smaller islands and little rocky outcroppings and things to give yourself a little bit more of an exciting route to go through, because one of the risks of doing a kind of Euro Truck Sim-esque idea on the water is that since it's open water, you can just go from straight point A to point B, right? You don't really have to do anything like following a road or worry about the hazards of hills or things like that, stuff that you would have to deal with on more of a street-based simulator. Or indeed a farming sim where you have to worry about the terrain and dirt and mud and stuff like that. You don't have to do any of that on the open water, so they did need to give you more of an advanced set of places to navigate, so it isn't just go in a straight line from place A to place B and that's it. One of the main things you'll be doing, pretty much no matter what type of ship you have, is cargo transportation. And different ships have different classes of cargo that they can currently actually carry. You have extra small, small, and medium as the three current classes. Large cargo is planned to be added in the big first, major update later on, probably closer to November. I really like the way that they've done the cargo transportation as well, because they've given it that extra bit of satisfaction by making it more manual, because you don't have an invisible inventory in your boat where you just plop things and they go into a list. Instead, you have to actually physically pick up the objects that you're tasked to transport and place them down in the cargo area of your ship by hand. And then when you make it to the port that you need to unload stuff, you do have to physically unload it as well. Take it out by hand, bring it up the dock, and plop it down on the delivery pallet to complete your mission. So I think this is a good idea. Making everything needs to be more manual in a simulator like this, because the more stuff you have to consider, the more stuff that isn't automatic, just menu-based and is actually more physical, the better, because that's what people are looking for in a sim like this. You want to simulate as many tasks as possible. This also means that you can take multiple different cargo missions at once if you feel that you can handle it, or you've got the fuel, or maybe they're just in similar areas to each other, so you're already going that way, you may as well make some extra money. But you've got to actually make sure to plop all the stuff down in your cargo bay in such a way that you can fit all of it at once, and you've got room for everything. The only thing I dislike about the current cargo system is that you can't stack boxes. I think it would be really nice if you could. Maybe there would be certain boxes that you could not stack on top of, like for instance the grocery missions. You probably wouldn't want to put a bunch of heavy cargo on top of a basket of cucumbers or whatever, but stuff like the big sturdy metal boxes, it would be nice if you could sort of stack things on top of them. I feel like a big part of the point of these cargo missions is how you manage your space, how you organize all the cargo for the trip, and making as much of the space that you have as possible. So I think it would be cool if you could stack things in order to do exactly that, to better take advantage of the space that you have. Another cool feature that I do like, though, is the cranes. Once you get a certain skill tree purchase, you can operate the dock cranes, the small ones, to actually hook cargo from your ship and bring it on to the dock itself without having to go down and actually do it by hand, which is a cool feature because it gives you yet another mechanical manual thing to mess with. But also, I'm guessing it's going to be a lot more important later on when the large cargo is added, because that's probably going to be stuff that you can't physically pick up anyway. So you're going to have to learn to use the more advanced cranes in order to actually get it onto ships. Now, of course, since you are on open water, you've also got fishing. There are several different kinds of fishing that you can do, which I do appreciate. The most basic one is the jig fishing, which is basically like fishing with a rod, except the jig is not quite a rod. It's similar, but it's fishing by hand, where you catch a small amount of fish at a time, and it takes a little while per fish, but it's going to be the main way that you do it for a while, because the more advanced methods cost a lot more money, and they also need a more specialized vessel to be able to mount the equipment that you need to use them. Things like fishing lines and fishing nets, for instance, you can use those. There are purchasable nets and lines and hooks and baits and food and all sorts of stuff, so the fishing can get more complex and more industrial as you go on. You've just got to have the right vessel to actually support all this stuff. So I do think it's cool that there are various levels of fishing, from the simpler by hand to more advanced industrial methods. And those are also going to be the two main types of vessel that you can buy right now, between cargo vessels and fishing vessels. Cargo vessels will have much larger cargo space, as well as, of course, support for up to currently medium cargo, whereas the fishing vessels, they're not going to have as much room for cargo. Usually it's only like extra small, maybe some small space here and there, but they're going to have a lot more rigging for stuff like nets and carrying a bunch of lines and things so that you can actually do way more fishing with them. And they also will have space for rigging tanks to actually have bulk fish in the tanks. But to be fair, those aren't the only two things you're going to be doing, because as well as various kinds of cargo like building materials, groceries, and medicine, and the fishing mechanics, there's also some other things you can do. For instance, you could rig some fuel tanks up to the external of your vessel and actually gather a bunch of fuel from one port and transport it to somewhere else and give them the fuel. So you can spread fuel around this way to sort of refuel more distant stations and stuff, which is a pretty cool idea. And at first, although the main thing you're going to be doing with your fishing catches is selling them for money, there are other things you can do. Once you have a more advanced fishing vessel and a big tank full of catch, you can actually take them to fishing farms and offload them that way. There are several fish farms on the map that you can visit for that exact purpose. And then the other stuff that you're going to be able to do is all maintenance and mechanical stuff. For instance, you may have to pick up some trash, so you'll have to go to various areas and pick up the trash. You actually have to do this by hand, which makes the missions a little bit frustrating, because the hitboxes for actually retrieving the trash out of the water are really precise. But of course the water is choppy and constantly moving around, so you have to be really precise with how you pull up to the side of it to be able to reach it. I think it would be nice if you had like some sort of catch pole that you could buy to extend your reach a little bit, to make the mission a little bit more just easier, I guess, in general, a little bit less finicky. But either way, that is something you can do, is go and get trash out of the water. But you can also do a lot of repairs and stuff. You may come across a buoy that is not flashing anymore, so they ask you to repair it. Maybe it needs a new fuse, or maybe it needs a new bulb. And you can buy various mechanical bits from shops and then take them in your inventory out to the water, find these various mechanical bits and bobs like the buoys and markers and stuff, and climb them and actually physically fix them yourself. You know, you gotta have a screwdriver to take out the screws, you gotta open up the panels, you gotta do all the things manually that you would expect, all the mechanical tasks, which is a good idea. This is actually something that I would like to see them focus more on, because to me, at least, as sort of a layman that has never lived near water in my entire life, when I think about water, I think of everything being very mechanical and breaking a lot, to the point that maintenance is difficult, but it's sort of a constant battle you have to face to make sure things continue working properly. So the more stuff, the more just general mechanical tasks that we have to do and have a detailed mechanic for actually doing, the better. I think that giving us just more of a focus on mechanical repairs and similar stuff, maintaining machinery, messing with engines and propellers and buoys and all the various cool mechanical bits and bobs that are floating around out there, the more that we get to do with them, the more stuff that can go wrong with them that we can actually go and fix ourselves, that gives us a lot more gameplay opportunities, and I think is a really good idea for a sim like this. That's actually one of the things that I've noticed people really like about the farming sim games, is how well simulated a lot of the machinery and stuff is, to the point that you do have to maintain various things around your farm, and that's just a part of the fun, because that's how it works. Things break and you gotta fix them. So I would definitely like to see more of that for sure. As for the early access, currently it is kind of in a mid state in terms of content and polish. It has a fair number of ships of different types that you can actually buy right now, although some of them are very expensive and will take a long time. The various missions and tasks that you can find, as well as the 2 major ports that you can dock at to actually get all of this stuff, does help to give a good idea of what they want the full game to be like, and I think it's a really good start in terms of the variety and quality of missions that you can accept. Like I said, I would like to see more of the mechanical stuff included, but as of what's currently here, you do have a good amount of specialized missions where it depends on the kind of ship that you're in, exactly what you can accept, so that there is a good amount of stuff to do no matter what you decide to focus on. Performance right now can be a little bit spotty, especially out in the open water where you're relatively distant from everything and you just kind of have a lot of islands off in the distance that are not fully rendered yet. It seems like that kind of in-between area can cause some hitching and some frame rate loss here and there. It has improved a lot since launch, so they've definitely been working on the optimization of what's currently here, so there's that at least, but it does need a little bit of fixing up in some areas that can be oddly lossy in terms of the frame rate. I would also really like to see more boats. Right now, pretty much the only ships you're seeing are docked, and I think it would be cool if you had some actual boat traffic to navigate around. It would add some extra sense of life to the world to have some ships that are actually sailing at the moment, but it would also add a little bit of interesting navigation for the player to do, to have to go around and find their ways around the shipping lanes and stuff to make sure that they arrive in a timely manner without running into anything. So I just think that more stuff, just AI in general, for you to deal with would actually help with pretty much anything you want to do, whether it's fishing or shipping or whatever. They would all benefit, I think, from having some more ships on the water for you to actually contend with. But as of right now, I think it's a pretty enjoyable little time. It is content light at the moment. It doesn't have a ton of stuff to do, but what's here is pretty decently well simulated, and as long as they can keep the performance above board and maybe add in some of those extra features that will just help with the world feeling more alive in general, I think it'll be a pretty good time once more content is added, especially when it comes to the big future update that they're planning involving large size cargo and stuff. I expect that will really enhance a lot of the variety of what you can transport and what it's going to be like to do so, because you'll have a lot more weight available on ships and more of a reason to get larger vessels and stuff, which should be cool. So I'll put the link in the description below this video to the Steam store page for Ships at Sea if you guys wish to check it out yourselves. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.